Welcome to the Gameday716 Roundtable, brought to you every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Your hosts, as always, a Buffalo guy, Noah's dad, and Grandmaster Flash's protege, Todd Morse. They call him the man of the hour, Noah Morse. Former defensive end and tight end, Game Day CJ Boatman. And yours truly, Paul Lodarczyk, a.k.a. P-Dubs. We are Gameday716, and we are live.
That's funny. Hey guys, welcome to Gameday716. Here we are, four squared, whatever. Four guys in a box. I don't know. That's the start of a joke. Anyway, so yep, here we are. Another Tuesday night at 7, just like we always promise.
Nailed it.
Nailed it again. Yep.
In fairness, y'all were at the game.
We were at the game. It was awesome. We'll get to that. Plenty to unravel just about the crowd. So how is everybody today?
Great.
We got 4 negative COVID tests the other day, so that's awesome.
That is great.
Yeah. The kids were able to go back to school for the first time today. I was technically able to go back into the office, but I decided one more day remote. Can't hurt anybody.
So when you work remote, you have a mirror that you look into and then your screen behind you?
Correct.
That makes sense. Okay. So it's rapid fire time. So we're going to get going with some rapid fire questions. So CJ, what do you think of Asians?
What do I think of Asians? I feel like they're kind of quiet.
I'm just kidding. What? They are kind of quiet.
He was ready.
I know he was.
Yeah, he didn't even hesitate.
He was like, that's a normal question. Let's do it.
You never know.
Yeah. So
Top-notch
how do we feel
cuisine.
about agents?
Say it one more time. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Agents. Sports
Agents.
agents.
Sports agent.
Yeah.
What do I think of them?
Yep.
I hate them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Your
I just
favorite. No, I don't know.
it's got to be that guy working for Antonio Brown, dude. He's doing a great job.
Fair enough.
You know who else has a pretty epic agent? Lamar Jackson. Shout out Mama Jackson.
No.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. Noah, how's your agent doing?
He's still with us. That answers the question.
So awesome then. So, Paul, have you ever written a love letter?
Oh, yeah. Me and my wife still have love letters we wrote each other.
That's nice.
Yeah. I've got my favorite one in my wallet, actually, that I carry with me all the time. True story.
I believe you.
Of course, I'm that guy.
Oh, good. No, hey, I got notes from my wife in my wallet.
CJ's got ghosts right now.
I'm sorry if it's a distraction.
It's not a distraction. It's actually kind of amazing.
Trying to keep it on.
Noah's got real people, so plus he's eating on camera. Classic Noah. So all right. Paul again. See, I did it backwards. Anyway, we're gonna skip that one and go to the next one. So how many lights are on your house? Oh, I skipped whatever. Sorry. CJ.
How many lights are on my house? Probably at least 100.
100?
Mm-hmm.
Solid. Paul, are you going to see Hamilton when it comes next week?
Probably not. If I'm being real, I won't fake it for the people and just say yes. I probably have no plans of going. There's very few shows like that I'm like. There's some musicals I like, but I probably won't go out of my way to see Hamilton.
You don't like Hamilton?
I wouldn't say that I don't like it. I would just say that it's probably going to be a busy few weeks. So
Have you
I
ever
don't
seen
know.
it before?
Not live.
You ever seen? Well, but did you seen the thing on Disney Plus then, right?
Yeah. I just haven't
Okay.
seen anything live.
Okay.
Cool. No, what were Aladdin's 3 wishes?
Wasn't it to be a prince and be wealthy, and then he released the genie?
2 out of 3.
I don't remember. Close enough. I'll take
He had
it.
a wish to be saved once.
Oh,
Remember
His
he was at the
wish.
I
bottom?
don't. But I
Technically,
believe you.
that never came out of his
Technically
mouth,
wasn't.
though.
Yes, and neither was getting out of the Cave of Wonders. That was
A freebie.
all the genie. Yeah, that was a freebie.
True. So what's the third one, Paul?
So
Yeah.
we have. I'm trying to think because I've seen the old one. I saw the new one with Will Smith, which the kids loved. It was so the first one was the one to get out of the Cave of Wonders. Didn't count because the genie did that on his own. They didn't rub the lamp. Then he wished to be a prince. There were 2 times he needed to be saved, right? Or no, the carpet saved him once, and that
Right.
he did actually use one of the wishes. So the genie goes down into the bottom of the water when he gets thrown into the water, and goes down there and rubs the lamp with Aladdin's hand and frees him. So I think that was number 2, and then I think the third one was eventually after the whole Jafar thing, he released the genie. That sounds right.
Didn't you wish to be a prince?
That was
Yeah,
the
he said
first
that.
wish.
Oh,
It was
okay.
yeah.
I missed that somehow. Okay. Cool. I'm writing that down.
We're a Disney household.
I'm going to say to be saved, and that'll make sense to my wife, I hope.
Ooh, I nailed it. I just looked it up to cheat, and I was dead on to make him a prince, to save him from drowning, and to free the genie.
Nice. Speaking of drowning, Noah.
Yep.
There's so many ways this could go right now. I'm scared.
Yeah. What are we doing here?
How was your Pearl Harbor Day?
Oh, it was great. It's fantastic.
Anything special go on?
No.
No.
Well, I mean, we watched the Bills lose, but I guess that's not special.
That was the day before.
Oh.
That was Pearl Harbor Eve.
Oh, that's right. Today's Wednesday. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Paul, what's the best Christmas song?
Ooh, you know what? My daughter keeps asking to watch Home Alone, and the movie Home Alone to me is synonymous with rocking around the Christmas tree, because that's what they play when he's doing the whole making everybody move to make it. So that's stuck in my head right now. So that's the one I'm gonna go with.
CJ, what's the best country song? Since you love country so much.
I don't even know any country songs.
Isn't the Monday Night Football song usually performed by a country artist? Can't we count that?
No, Monday Night Football is like dun 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 dun.
Sunday night.
Is it Sunday Night Football I'm thinking of?
Yeah, it is Sunday night.
Football. Yeah.
Waiting all day for
Carrie
Sunday
Underwood.
night.
Yeah. That's the song then. That's my favorite.
That's your favorite? Okay. Cool.
It counts.
Okay, Willie Nelson, right? Willie Nelson's country or no?
Yeah.
I would consider
All right.
Willie Nelson country.
He's
Yeah,
absolutely
scientist.
country.
And I guess you can consider them green roots too.
Mm.
That's grassroots. Grassroots. That's what I was thinking of. Still
No,
works.
you
The
meant
pun
green
still
roots.
works.
You were trying to make a comment. You're trying to say something about
But the
him.
grass thing still
you were doing
works.
that on purpose.
I
but
totally was.
We'll let it slide.
All
That's the end.
right.
So
Rapid
that's
fire.
the end. Thanks for watching the show.
Get you next week.
We don't even want to talk about Monday.
Nope.
What happened Monday?
What happened Monday? Yeah, Patriots 14, Bills 10. A little bit of a letdown there. Where do we want to start unraveling this thing?
Maybe 30 seconds each. Just a quick first impression, and then we'll dig into like whatever sticks.
All right. You get 30 seconds, Noah, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go ahead.
It sucked. Having them throw 3 passes and just running all over us sucked. And it also sucked being at the stadium and watching it happen in the freezing cold. It wasn't fun. I mean, the offense looked pitiful. The play calling didn't look inspired. It looked like you're just running generic plays. Defense showed up. I mean, you held them to 14 points, but you didn't do the other parts that you also need to do, like stop the run and not let them hold on to the ball for an hour and a half so you can get some more chances. But it was bad. It was not fun.
All right, Paul, it's your turn. You get 55 seconds.
All right. So disappointing for sure. I watched it with my son. It's the first game that my son has stayed up late to watch with me. He's watched some Sunday
that's
afternoon
why.
games, but
Okay.
it's the first one that it was me and him sitting there. It was just me and him watching the game. I remember how it felt being a kid and seeing the Bills lose, and now he got a taste of that medicine. When I tell you this boy was saddened and crushed by the loss, the last play of the game when it was like all said and done, it was over. Bills weren't getting the ball back. Head down, massive sadness. But right before he went to bed, one of the first things
it's
he
a
said,
rite of passage at this
Right?
point for Bills
Yeah.
fans.
But before he went to bed, he told me, he's like, "We're gonna get him next time, Dad." And I remember being that optimistic. So I'm gonna carry his optimism with me. And on a different field, on a different day, we'll see what happens. You're not going to run the ball 46 times when the weather conditions allow Josh Allen to sling it all over the place. So that's where I'm going to stay right now, for now.
CJ, you're up.
All right. Me personally, I am pretty tired of hearing the we need to blow up the roster. We need to coaching changes. We need to do this, that, and the third. I'm just not on that mind state yet. From what I saw in that game, there was a lot of individual errors. We can, I can go to Breida's fumble. I can go to Knox's drops. I can go to Bass's missed field goal. I can go to Knox's false start. Any one of those, I think individually really hurt us. And then you add them all together, and that's what caused us to lose that game. I think if even half of those things don't happen, we win that game. And as far as play calling, while it wasn't the most exciting play calling I've ever seen, I am not angry with it because I saw a lot of plays where guys were open and had opportunities to get first downs, but players didn't make the catches to move the chains. And so that being the case, I don't really put it on coaching. I don't really put it on the defense as a whole or the offense as a whole. We'll get into it a little bit more, but I just felt like, individually some guys struggled and that really brought us down.
All right.
Fair points.
Good, interesting comments there. Noah, do you think we should be blowing up the roster and tearing it down? And what do you think?
I mean, I don't think we need to blow up the roster. I mean, the roster is still good with most of the pieces that they have, but there are certain positions where you need to look very hard at some of those players. I mean, they already looked at kicker and punt returner obviously with not playing McKenzie and Stevenson, and McDermott coming right out after the game saying he did it because he didn't trust them back there and he wanted somebody he could trust, and that was apparently Matt Breida and Micah Hyde. So I think you already have this coaching staff and the front office thinking about certain things already, hopefully, because you're 12 weeks into the season and the same things keep happening over and over again. And you went into this year, wanting to beat the Chiefs. That was what this was about, and you were ready to take the next step and be Super Bowl contenders and all this stuff. And now it's okay. We have to do X, Y, and Z to make the playoffs, and we need this to happen. And it's like that wasn't the way this year was supposed to go. So it's been a very big letdown, and it keeps getting worse and worse.
Two points I want to make off of Noah's point, if I may. I like the point that you make about us formulating a roster and kind of tooling everything around being able to beat KC, because in my opinion, the current roster matches up well against KC. What we didn't anticipate was that it was going to make us take a step back as far as how we match up to other types of teams. And I think that that's something that nobody had the foresight to see. So I'll bookmark that for a second. Second thing I want to mention.
That there's 31 other teams in the NFL is.
Well, no, what I mean is like we built a roster and structured in a way to beat a high flying offense like Kansas City, right? But when it comes to a power running team, we put all our chips in the basket with being able to beat KC, and we formulated a roster that can do that. Even as KC has gotten better, I think we still match up well against Kansas City in neutral conditions on a neutral stage, depending on where home field would be. But I think we match up well from a personnel standpoint with KC right now. But I don't think we match up well at all with anyone that has a power running game. It's just not. And the thing is, you can't plug any holes with personnel moves. It's too late for that. Like you have to get creative with scheming, and you have it's going to. Whatever happens the rest of the season is going to live or die by what the coaching staff implements throughout the rest of the season and how well the team that we currently have executes that. We can't find a new one tech. We can't find a beastie offensive lineman to play guard for us. There's just certain things we can't do right now. We got to ride with what we've got, but there are schematically some things that we hopefully can do as we move forward here in the last 5 weeks of the season. And this is the last point that I want to make is that we still technically control our own destiny, not just with the playoffs.
Well, let's get into that
a
little bit later. So, because that's an important topic to talk about on its own. And we want to, Santa Claus isn't a game day fan. Santa Claus is part of game day. Just so you know, Mike, welcome back after 2 weeks. CJ, you had a lot to say. I want to hear your rebuttal.
Oh, my thinking was, okay, how many years ago was it that we had one of the top 5 rush run defenses in the league? Was that last year or was that 2 years ago?
It was last year.
Find out. Yeah.
I think it was 2 years ago. No, it was 2 years ago. Because remember,
the
offense
year we got
stepped up last year and the defense took a step back.
Yeah.
So my question is what has changed from a personnel standpoint from that year to this year?
Players got older.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, no. So my point is just that at one point it was working, right? And it was clear that it was working because of the statistics back that up. And then something happened over. Go ahead.
Shaq, Lawson, and Jordan Phillips were out of the. That's the only change,
so
I believe, from
Phillips
2019 to 2020.
Big, beefy linemen.
Yep. Fat guys. Okay.
But they were replaced. Lawson at least was replaced. Or
Lawson is not the bigger issue there. I think Phillips is who we miss more, right?
Which is kind of shocking because I thought with Starr being entered back into the lineup that would help with that, and it didn't seem to.
Yeah. So I just asked that question because you sit here and wonder, okay, what has changed? Like you said, okay, guys got a little bit older, but if you're only talking about 2 players moving from, and we've replaced them with at least 3 or 4 high round draft picks, right? So, I mean,
right. No, and I was being somewhat sarcastic in me saying that guys got older. It's just that's what's happened. That's what happens over time, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, when you have a 22-year-old Edmonds now be 23 or whatever, time
I don't
takes
think
its
he's
toll.
the guy you wanna. I think he would hopefully
Time
get
takes
better
its
at this
toll,
point. Yeah.
No, but has he improved? That's one question that we can talk about in a little bit. Has I think my take on the defense a little bit, and this can be an even stronger point when you look at the offense, is teams may have caught up to schemes. There are great coaches out there who are able to change their schemes, right? And the Bills just played one of them. And they build their rosters so they can do that kind of stuff. They practice all of that, and build all of that in. And it doesn't seem like the Bills really do that in the same way. It seems like, based on McDermott's press conference, especially, that he was saying, this is who we are, this is what we do, this is what we play and have done since training camp. And if you take that away, as this is what I expected from day one, I guess from my standpoint, that would be a talking point that I took as almost a negative onto himself, because he's saying that this is what we've done since day one, and now what have we adapted? Well, I haven't seen the Bills adapt at all.
Yeah, I think the broader point that he was getting at, and this is just how I interpret it when I was listening to that presser, was that all the install you do during training camp, 15 weeks into a season, you can't then go and you can't completely retool it and install new stuff. Like, it's your schemes are what they are. You can make some tweaks. They ran a 4-3 predominantly on Monday night for the first time that we've seen all season. So there are some things that they can do schematically
and it works
different.
So well.
Yeah, they work beautifully. But here's a point that I'll just throw out here for now. I know we're going to touch on this later, but as far as running the 4-3 and how that worked against a power running front, they had to fill their gaps 46 times in that game in run defense. To ask any defense, even the 85 Bears, to fill run gaps for 46 straight running plays, you're going to have a few that just they don't fit. So saying that, I'll touch on that a little bit more, but that's just something for us all to keep in mind, is like asking a defense to fill all of their gaps 46 straight times to perfection. You're not going to get that. The problem was they did enough to keep the offense in the game to score at the end. And, if that fourth down goes any differently, everybody's having a different conversation today. And ultimately that's what it comes down to. Did the defense do enough to keep us in the game? And did the offense do enough to win the game? And only one of those answers.
Did the defense do enough to keep us in the game? And did the offense do enough to win the game?
Well, no, because the offense didn't win the game. I mean, you had two chances right there at the end to win, and you didn't. The defense, I mean, yeah, they let them run all over them, but I mean, holding the Patriots to 14 points, that's something that you would want, you should want out of your defense. I mean, in my opinion, this is mostly on poor execution on the offense. Yeah, it was windy. Josh was still zipping the ball. Josh was still putting it on the wide receivers. Josh threw
against all
the
odds,
wind.
in fairness.
Right.
Yeah.
Josh threw through the wind. It seemed to be, with a lot of zip, but it was there. But it was once again this distrust of Sanders, having him wide open in the middle, but then decides to take a deep shot to Zach Moss on the sideline, which is difficult for any
Because he's
pass.
reliable.
Well, not even just that, but that's difficult for anybody except like Calvin Johnson, who would just jump up and get it. Like, you're asking a lot of a guy who's 5'10" to make that catch when Sanders was wide open in the middle for the first down. When you're in the red zone, you have 6 yards to get a first down, and you're aiming for the end zone. I get it for maybe the first play, but why are we trying for 3 straight plays, and then Josh gets sacked? I mean, it's a poor execution on the offensive end led really to the downfall, because the Bills left points on the field, and not just the missed field
lot.
goal. I mean, they could have probably have scored 3 times, and they didn't. They were 1 for 4 in the red zone, and once
Speaking of
again,
that,
here we are
quick stat.
CJ,
talking about that.
two questions for you, CJ. What do you think of Dawson Knox 12 weeks into the season and where we're at with him? And then question 2, how much of a factor do you think wind actually played into this game? Not from a, yes, wind played a huge factor, but from a that it still affected both teams, and both teams had to plan for it. And in the sense of, did the teams plan correctly for it? So let's start with Knox first, and then get into the wind.
Yeah. So with Knox, I mean, you got to say this year has been a step forward, right? I mean, no matter how you look at it, he's played a lot better. He's been more productive. All that stuff. I don't know. Again, we're back to the situation of him making easy passes look hard. I saw the one he dropped, the first down easily, and it I don't know. It just made it look hard instead of it just being up here and bringing it down. It was like here, and then trying. It was goofy and it looked awkward. And so I just think that I don't know if it's his confidence when he's in big games or what's going on. And he loves to show out against lesser teams. I don't know. I'm happy with the way he's progressed throughout his career, and I think that moving forward, obviously, hopefully that's a 1 in a million game that night, and he'll be able to pull it back together, and he'll be who we've gotten used to this year, not go back to what he was. And then as far as the wind, I think that it's easy to look at that few plays there in like that dig specifically, or I guess you could even say the Knox one in the end zone, but the Diggs one in the end zone specifically. And whereas everybody's looking at that and saying, "Oh, that should have been caught. That's what I mean. That was on Diggs. That's not Allen." And when that ball was up in the air, I know you didn't show the ball, but they showed Diggs, and he's all back and forth, and it's moving. So it's going from one side to the other, and it's making him have to switch, going from inside shoulder to outside shoulder. Outside shoulder in the back of the end zone, you never want to do. Inside shoulder, yeah, it's a lot easier. So you kind of want to you see that, and you wonder, okay, how much of the wind really did impact that throw and that catch. But I mean, it would have been great to sit here and say, yeah, we should have ran the ball more. But is anybody here confident in that running game right now? Because I'm not. So to me,
it's not the running backs anymore for me either.
Well, I'm just saying, clearly the run blocking is not very strong, or what I just think blocking in general has been lacking on the team this year. But either way, yeah, I mean, game plan wise, I mean, obviously the Patriots, to me, came out with the perfect game plan for that scenario and for that situation and for those conditions. Whereas we still tried to lean on Josh, and they're trying to put a little bit too much on Josh still. And again, going back to the running game, how do you spell Josh? How do you make him not have to put so much on his shoulders? Okay, you run the ball, but they've been so ineffective that there's no trust whatsoever in the fact that they can get it done no matter how many people they put on the field. I mean, to Todd's point last week or 2 weeks ago, maybe try different personnel, maybe bring another tight end in or something. But at the end of the day, it's just there's got to be no confidence. That's what I see. I mean, yeah, they're trying to keep it honest by running a little bit here and there, but doesn't seem like they're putting the ball in a running back's hands when we need it the most. They were giving it to Josh, and I wonder if you're just putting too much on him at this point.
There
Can
was a in 1 second, because I know you have points, but there
Yeah.
was one series where Singletary actually looked good, and I think that happens every game. And then you start to get hope. Oh, the running game, okay, maybe they'll stick with it. Maybe Singletary actually is looking all right, and then they bring in Moss, or they bring in Breida for the next, the next drive or whatever. And it's not just to spell Singletary. It's like we take
They're
turns.
getting a whole drive. Yeah. I'm right with you there. I think to have a back in this league, you need to give them 15, 20 carries a game, let them get going, let them get some momentum, all that stuff. And so say you run into a wall 3 times, right? And then the 4th time you get 10 yards. It to the offensive
changes
line,
your averages.
it changes your averages, but to your offensive line, they're going to sit there and say, "Whoa, we just did that, so we can do that again. We can do that." You know what I mean? And that also builds confidence in the offensive line. So you're doing a little bit of both, right? You're giving confidence to the offensive line, and you're giving more confidence to the backs and to the back that you choose. And I think that going forward, if we could pick one, give him the most, and say we do a Singletary, right? Okay, that we have 3 guys. Give each a game for the rest of one game the rest of the season. Give one guy a game and see what happens. Give Moss 1 game, give Breida 1 game, full games. They can have somebody in once in a while, but I just think that that would, again, for confidence and for both the line and the running backs, I just think that would be huge. And I'm totally with you. I know that's probably what you were going to get at, was just that just what. So like you said, in your mind, if you're Singletary, right, or if I'm Singletary, and I just felt like I put the best 3-4 runs in a row where on the team or for the game so far. I have run better than everybody else out there, and I did it 3-4 times in a row. If I come back out that next drive and you're telling me you're putting somebody else in, like, first of all, I'm going to be angry with the coaching staff. I'm going to be upset with myself and feel like maybe I didn't do enough. And you're just going to go back into that rut of feeling like maybe I can't do this. You know what I mean? And I think that's what you perpetuate, is all these guys sitting there thinking that they can't do it. And so they all sit there and like, oh, well, and it's just not good for the room. It's not good for each individual player. You know what I mean? And so that's my thoughts on it.
So, Paul, I want to give you a couple shots here because I know you have a lot to say. One of the questions that I want to pull from what CJ said to give to you is about running back confidence and how that plays into the scheme and how that plays into kind of what the Bills are trying to do. Also, you had mentioned that you didn't think the issue is the running backs, and I'm sure we all know where you're going. But I did have another question, but I do not remember it. So I'll let,
if you think of it, just jump in and
I will.
ask
So
away.
what do you, what's your take on those 2 items as far as
yeah, so I really like the point CJ makes about getting a running back going, and it actually plays in really well to a point that I want to make in the fact that New England did run the ball 46 times. And to my earlier point about they only broke a few of them for more than 10, right? Like there was 3 that went over 10 yards, I believe. The one that went for 64. You run the ball 46 times, it's going to happen. If Buffalo would have ran the ball 46 times, one of those 3 running backs were going to break a long one. It's just the nature of the beast. It's a numbers game. The more touches you have, it's inevitable that at one point there's going to be a hole in a place that you need it to be, and you're just going to rush through it. Somebody's going to take a bad angle, and you're gone. It only takes one mistake. On the 64-yard touchdown, it was Micah Hyde over pursuing and then not being able to get back to the center of the field. So I think that played into what the Patriots were able to do. As far as our running backs, though, and I kind of want to pull Josh into this because Josh is a running threat. So here's a quick little fun stat for you guys. After Monday's game, here are the big runs for the Buffalo Bills in the 2021 season. Big runs being anything over 10 yards. Matt Breida has 2 such runs. Zach Moss has 3 such runs. Devin Singletary has 12 10-plus yard runs this season. Josh Allen, 15. I know, CJ, you made a point that we shouldn't put everything on Allen. We shouldn't put too much on his plate. The last 5 games of the season, I want to put all on Josh Allen. I'm not saying don't run the ball and just everything runs through Josh Allen, but I needed to see his legs more on Monday night because when he was running, he was efficient. Probably our most efficient runner of the evening, minus a couple Singletary runs. If you're going to make a deep run at all, if you make the playoffs and try to go on a run, it's going to live and die by what Josh Allen is able to do despite the limitations of the roster right now and the scheme. And the only way to do that is we're going to have to pull a little bit of hero ball out of Josh Allen and live and die by that. And I know that that's scary, but I think that that's going to be the only thing that gives us a fighter's chance should we make a run in the playoffs. Like that's the only way we're going to do it. So I think that Josh Allen absolutely if we need MVP Josh Allen, like the whole team needs to like be put on his back and he needs to just do Josh Allen things. And my son kept saying the same thing when we were watching the game. He's like, we need Josh Allen to do Josh Allen things. Like that's how he was putting it. And it reminded me of Noah. Let Josh be Josh. We shouldn't have waited until the fourth quarter to start slinging the ball 40 yards downfield. I know that there was concerns about wind. Those concerns should have went out the window. And in the after game, Josh Allen even made mention that the wind wasn't as bad as people are making it sound. Well, no crap. You've got a cannon for an arm. Like Mac Jones would not have said the same thing. And that's why they didn't throw the ball, because Mac Jones's arm is not Josh Allen's arm. So that's why they leaned on the run.
But
and,
you know,
and a
Mac
little
Jones
bit of it had
might
to do
have
with
said the same thing because he would have only thrown the ball for 3 yards.
Yeah, I completed 2. Wind wasn't bad at all.
Right. And the wind is fine when you throw the ball for 3 yards, right? And
yeah,
to go back to what Noah or CJ, whoever was making the point about throwing the ball, it was Noah's point about throwing the ball deep downfield in dangerous positions where the defense was, like that throw to Moss. They were in a 2 safety deep zone. They were completely ready for a pass, and they were pretty much ready for a fairly deep pass. And Josh had to put it right in the breadbasket, like to what Noah was, back to Noah's point. When he had Sanders right over the middle for an 8-yard gain, he tries a 25-yard pass to Zach Moss down the line where he would have had to make a tiptoe, and all that kind of stuff. Noah, do you want to piggyback on that, or do you want to piggyback on anything that Paul said about planned runs for Josh and scheme limitations that the Bills have right now?
I mean, yeah, I agree. There are some scheme limitations, but I think the better question is, why are there scheme limitations when the Josh to Sanders connection was working earlier in the year, and now all of a sudden it seems like Sanders made Josh mad or something, like he doesn't trust him anymore. You were running the ball with Josh. You ran the ball with Josh effectively. Why wasn't he ran 20 times in this game? Like, why just a QB sweep, either tackle? Like, you can trust Spencer Brown and you can trust Dawkins to get out in front like that, and they've shown that they can do that. And why wasn't that done? The only time Josh ran was when he decided, okay, I'm not passing it, here I go. There was maybe one QB read, but that was about it. Like, I don't really remember there being any true design runs for him. And
I took a couple looks. They ran a lot of RPOs, and he chose to keep it and throw it. The touchdown pass to Gabe Davis is a good example of that. That was an RPO that he pulled back and just fired an absolute missile to Gabriel Davis.
And that's the other thing, is if their RPOs aren't RPOs and they're just RPs, and somebody's telling Josh he can't run it, I don't understand. Why is that?
I've never noticed that. Thanks, Mike. Let's go. We're in this together.
I mean, why are there scheme limitations? You're 12 weeks into the season. Like, I get it. This is your roster now. But, like, if you're holding stuff back for whatever reason, now's not the time to do that. You've been spanked 2 out of the last 3 weeks because of quote-unquote scheme limitations. And it's time to stop pretending here. It's time to stop. Like, I don't even know if it's a get it act together thing. Like, they seem like they expect to be able to play out of it while having no confidence that they can do it at the same time. Like, they just expect the stuff to happen while not having the confidence that they can do it.
So
Man,
let's
it's
rewind.
just
Let's rewind a little bit to week 3 when heading into the Houston game.
Our last back-to-back wins.
Our last
Houston.
back-to-back wins, yes. Heading into the Houston game, one of the things we talked about was, are the Bills holding back on their scheme, right? And is that why they lost to Pittsburgh in week 1? And that hopefully going into the Houston game, that they would open up the playbook a little to get ready for Kansas City, and do those kind of things. And the only time we've seen an open playbook is against Kansas City, in my opinion, like a fully open playbook. And to Noah's point, I think, what we are seeing still is either they're outsmarting themselves, or they're so cocky and confident in themselves that they're outsmarting themselves, or outdumbing themselves, maybe is a better way to say it. Paul, I saw the thumbs up there. What
Yeah.
are your, where do you
I
want to
think you're
take
on the right.
that?
I think you're on the right track there, right? Like my worry right now, and to piggyback directly off what you just said, is that this is a team that thought on our laurels, just playing average football, we could at worst we'll back into the playoffs. If we play fundamentally sound football, but use 75% of our scheme, we can win the division. And we're going to save our best punches for Kansas City and in the playoffs. And my concern is, by doing that, you've almost given the entire team and the coaching staff this mindset that they're already guaranteed those positions without earning them all over again. And by position, I mean playoff position, right? And I know that this team has preached the mantra humble and hungry to ad nauseum at this point. But I worry that the offseason chatter and the expectations have gotten inside everybody's heads. I've made this point before. I think that goes with the fan base and with the team. And I think that that's just natural. I don't think that there's anything wrong with those expectations creeping into people's heads and kind of shifting the paradigm of how we think about the Buffalo Bills and how they think about themselves. So I do think that they did limit their scheme. We saw it completely open up in the Kansas City game, and I think that's their best football. That's the product they need to put on the field every week. And I think that they were worried that if we show that every week, people will catch up to it by the end of the season, and then by the playoffs, it's just not there.
Let's
Because if
hear
you go
it,
back
CJ.
Real
quick, one
go ahead.
point. If we go back to week 1, they came out and were the 2020 Buffalo Bills all over again, throwing it, 13 times in a row to start the game. It was just, we're just going to throw it as much as humanly possible. Everybody's going to know we're going to throw it, and we're going to do it anyways, a la what the New England Patriots did with the running game against the Bills 46 times. I think once that happened in week 1 and we lost that game, whether it was internal noise or external noise, hey, we need to be a little bit more balanced. And we started seeing more running. And I'm going to say the same thing that Noah's been saying all season. And I am 100% all in on this notion now. It is time to let Josh just be Josh. Don't worry about anything else. Put the game in his hands and live and die by what he can do.
Let's hear CJ.
To your first point about holding back, if you come out against Jacksonville and you're losing that game, I'm sorry to tell you, no team in the NFL is going to hold back at that point. They are going to go all out to beat one of the worst teams in the league. You're just not holding anything back at this point. There's no way you hold that back. It doesn't make sense. There's no way that's happening. And then to your point of let Josh be Josh, right? I'm almost of the point here right now where I feel like there's a disconnect between what Josh wants to do and what the coaching staff wants him to do. And I think that so if you let Josh be Josh, right? And let's say to what Noah had said earlier about him missing Sanders there and kind of going the other way and wanting the big play. If you let Josh be Josh, to me, that is what's going to happen 20 times a game. Is he is going to want to make that big play, that big splash play. And we've seen what happens in these past couple games when he tries to do too much, and he's made mistakes and he's thrown the ball in bad places. And to me, you do not exacerbate that by giving him more opportunities to do that. I don't see that as the answer. I don't see making him do more at this point is going to help his progression, is going to help the team get any better. Yeah, I mean, a game or two where he puts it all on his shoulders, but that's not how you win consistently in the NFL. You need the defense, you need the offense, you need the special teams, you need everybody playing well, and so putting it on Josh, to me, while I get where you're coming from, is a very easy answer. And I don't see that as a real way to get back to being successful. Yeah, last year, I agree, 100%. We were very successful by putting a lot on him. And I think he came out this year expecting to do the same things. People adjusted, and he's struggled. And so to me, if he's struggled compared to last year, why would you put more on his plate?
Can I just bring up the fact that there's another quarterback in this league who the mantra for him has to be to let him be him. And here is the statistic that proves that he's still that dude.
If you're talking about Brady
has the most passing attempts in the last 3 years of any quarterback in the NFL, despite his age.
Okay.
So this notion that there's too much you can put on a quarterback, I get the sugar.
Can Josh read a defense the way that Tom Brady can read a defense? There's no answer. There is no
hesitation.
That's a no. Okay, so that is why you don't.
If I'm comparing year 4,
Tom Brady.
Josh
I
Allen
mean, Josh is.
You're comparing Josh Allen
right
right
I don't know how to.
Josh Allen right now, not Josh Allen Hall of Famer. 20 years from now.
Are we comparing Josh Allen of today to Tom Brady of today?
Tom Brady of today.
That's you can't. That's a comparison that no, you there's nobody in the league that's on that level. Maybe in 15 years, but it'd be unrealistic to even. The short answer is no, but it's because of time spent on the job, right? Like they say that 10,000 hours makes you an expert at something. You master a craft after 10,000 hours of doing it. I'd be willing to say that Tom Brady is further along past expert mastering status than Josh is because of time on task.
Good.
So if the question is,
still,
exactly. Tom Brady absolutely should be able to read a defense better than dang near everybody in the league at this point. So does Josh have the potential to get there?
I'm not saying he does. That's not what I said. I'm not saying he doesn't.
I get what you're saying. I was just throwing that in.
I'm saying right now that it's not there, right? And that's all I was saying was when you brought up Tom Brady, I'm just saying the reason why you can put it all on his hands and all on his shoulders is because he can make the adjustments at the line of scrimmage. Josh is still looking to coaches and stuff like that to. Now he's going through his reads, don't get me wrong, and he's identifying what he needs to identify. But for the most part, schematically, I would say Brady has a lot more input on a schematic standpoint as far as game flow than Josh does. And so,
and again, to your point, he should.
Right. And all I'm saying is that comparing the two is kind of tough, but also I
see your point.
Back to the point of just, I don't know if putting it on him is, and so your response to that was Tom Brady, right? And you feel like Tom Brady deserves it, and therefore, and you feel like Josh deserves to have that. But I don't think that
deserve. I'd say can. Like that you can be successful if you put more on Josh's plate. Like 2020 Josh Allen, right, was pretty much given the keys to the offense.
Exactly.
Hey,
but has he not made more mistakes this year than you've seen him make last year? Placement of the ball. You cannot lie. Has he put the ball in places that you think were bad decisions?
And if
I
you
can
just
go back to Jacksonville,
I just want to go from a statistical perspective, Paul. I mean, which is your breadbasket, right?
Yeah, that's why I'm struggling with this question, because statistically, no, not different. But from a placement, there's some the eye test. The eye test is telling us that it's a different Josh Allen this year. I won't say a regress.
I'm not saying that either.
Statistics are like.
Go ahead, Todd.
But they're not. Statistics lie. That's one thing I hate about statistics, because if a player throws for 400 yards and 200 of them are in garbage time, then your statistics get skewed, right? And so to me, statistics lie. And then it doesn't matter about his potential, because we're talking about right now. Okay.
How do we help us win?
We all agree that he is Fine. Do you want to talk about the Bills of 2026 then? Because we can do that. Like we can talk
No, but what I'm
about the
saying is
Bills of 2026. I'm fine
I
with
get what
that.
you're saying. What
Right?
I guess my point is that in order to get to the point where you get to a Josh Allen that is of that stature by 2026, at some point you need to throw him to the wolves and let him either survive or
Oh
not.
God. Okay. So
And-
that
But if you're gonna do,
Yeah.
here's what I'll have to say. Here's my thinking about the Josh v. Josh. Right,
Yep.
is you can do that with him because he's shown that he can do that. But if it's not gonna work for the game, then you don't do it. Like if you're running the ball with Matt Breida and Matt Breida's breaking off 5, 8, 10, and then for some reason
Yeah.
the next drive you're going out and passing and then you go 3 and out,
Yeah,
why
I
are
see
we
that
doing
point.
that? Who
Yeah, yeah,
cares?
yeah.
Who cares how you win the game? Just
Right.
win
Yeah.
the game. I don't care if you run the ball like the Patriots did last night and Josh never passes the ball. Like it shouldn't matter how they win the game. It goes back to what you guys were saying about the balanced offense, where it seems like for whatever reason there's pulling back on the scheme. They want to run this balanced offense where it was last year. They're willing to let Josh pass for 450 yards, have 2 interceptions, and throw for 4 touchdowns against the Seattle Seahawks. And outduel Russell Wilson, or come from behind against the Rams and throw for over 350 again in last year. But it's like I
And
feel like
outduel Jared Goff.
he did though, because
I
they
know.
both threw for similar yards.
I know.
And
I know.
but it seems like if the team of this year were to play those same games, Josh isn't going to have the same numbers because they're going to try to run the ball, and it's not going to work. Or it is going to work, and the passing game is going to work. The Bills need to stop thinking that they need to have a run game or that they need to establish this. If something is working, they just need to stick with it and do it. That's what the good teams do. If Lamar Jackson's having a bad day passing the ball, they go, okay, let's do the run now.
Yeah.
And they'll have him do 5 QB reads in a row, and they'll get a touchdown. It's what they do. If Justin Herbert's having a hard day, they put it on Austin Eckler. And then if that doesn't work, they're screwed. And then that's where you have to go. I trust my coaching staff to get it done and make the right decisions. And so far, Dable has not made them, because there are losses here where it has been that they're trying to be this balanced offense, this powerhouse, when it could just be they run the ball, they run it down their throats, and they win by a point. They're trying to still show that they can put up these big numbers when their offense is not built for that. They want to have it both ways. They want to be the Kansas City Chiefs while being a dominating run offense, and
they want to be the Chiefs and the Ravens at the same time, to your point.
Yes.
And it's not feasible. It's just pick
It's
one
not possible,
and stay in your lane.
No, and that's
any
what I
team.
was just about to say. Is I feel like you guys are kind of getting to the point of them almost just overthinking it. And I think somebody said it earlier, but I just think they're trying to be almost too prolific and trying to be too what's the word I'm looking for? Too
Diverse.
unpredictable, I guess I would say. When it's
Mhm.
like sometimes you just need to be predictable and it'll still work. I don't understand why I'm not seeing a whole bunch of play action from like to me, why can't we do very similar things when we want to? Not saying this is always going to be the game plan, but if you look at how Tennessee's offense is run, like Tannehill does those play actions and he's money on them, right? And that's because they run, and then he does a play action where he comes around. I'm thinking something similar like that, where they could just make a team think that we're going to run it, and then Josh pulls out, and Tannehill always gets these huge long runs on it. I'm not saying that's the answer. I'm just saying that if we go back to a little bit more of a basic style and how we had it, a few years ago, not that was great, but I'm just saying like, just
Get
clearly,
back to
I
basics.
worry about putting too much on Josh, and that's again just the point I'm trying to make. Is when he's put too much on him, have we seen this season he's made mistakes, and I worry putting more on him is just going to exacerbate that, and he's going to make more mistakes.
I guess recency bias comes into effect here a little bit for me, because would we all agree that they waited like a quarter and a half too long to let Josh start uncorking
100%.
it in the wind?
100%.
Because if he starts slinging the ball earlier, there's no telling how that game turns out.
If he throws
it
for
almost seems
45
like they waited
passes in that game, I think they win.
No,
I
yeah,
don't know why they just didn't let him throw. It was working. Yeah,
they made it
get the win.
the wide
Yeah.
receivers had drops, but that's not on Josh.
Yeah.
Dawson Knox making a ridiculous dumb catch, trying to do it and making it stupid isn't on Josh.
Yeah.
I mean, the ball could have been better. Whatever.
Yeah.
It was still there. It still hit his hands. Still hit his chest.
The thing about passing, and I think CJ hit this on the money, and I is with that weather. Okay, it's not that you couldn't pass. It's not that they couldn't catch, but they need to be cognizant of the fact that the ball is going to change trajectory in the air. And they need to be aware of that and needed to be aware of that. And Brian Dable should have instilled that. Wide receivers coach should have instilled that. You know, Ken
catches,
Dorsey should have instilled. What?
Oh, I'm sorry. To your point, just body catches. Like we need to make sure that these are in our body, right?
Yep.
So it does, like that makes the catch a lot more easier as opposed to going like this when the ball is moving all over the place. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No.
And actually, one quick thing, because that's actually a really, really good point, because tracking the ball becomes a heck of a lot more difficult in the wind. I 100% agree with you. I'm of the belief that the best player on our team at tracking the ball in the air is Gabriel Davis. Is there any disagreement with that?
And look he had a touchdown and made like 3 ridiculously awesome catches.
Do we think that was a perfect throw with the wind?
Beautiful.
Do we think that if it's Gabriel Davis running that go route instead of Stephon Diggs, that he tracks that ball better and he catches that? I'm sorry.
I don't know.
It was the first thing that entered my head when the play happened. I saw it.
No, I mean, I get it, but
I
hate to think like that. Like, I get it. I get what you're saying, but I would hate to even think like that and say, yeah.
Because don't get me wrong, Stephon Diggs is amazing. I'm not trying to
He
take
does have good hands,
Stephon
dude.
Diggs,
like,
but like there were a couple
pristine route. Wait, are you saying Davis or?
I'm saying Diggs. I'm saying Diggs is known in the NFL to have great hands and make really good catches. You know,
what I mean? I honest to God believe that Gabriel Davis has the best ball tracking ability on the entire team.
Why? Does he play?
and exactly again.
No, I'm not saying you're wrong, Paul. I'm just that would be the devil's advocate. Like, okay,
to the coaching staff, why isn't he playing?
Right, exactly.
That's the better question, because every time they put him in the lineup and they put him in position to be the primary read or even the secondary read, the kid balls out.
Getting open.
Like you go back to last season, think of all the times he had to track a ball that was going to go out of bounds and still got his feet in bounds. There was a play against the 49ers where he split the safeties and the ball came over his head. And I don't even believe it was a Josh Allen throw. I think it was a game that Barkley ended up going in and spelling Josh in the fourth or something. And he just lasered it up over the air. It went over the top of Gabriel Davis. And he's got his head turned the entire time and makes a fingertip grab. Like there's nobody else on our team making those kinds of catches.
Okay.
But to your point, there's nobody making the Diggs type of catches either, but they're two different players.
They are.
I think Gabriel Davis in that position tracks that ball despite it moving around, because I think he has maybe top 10 in the league at tracking the ball. I'm not saying he's a top 10 receiver. Don't get me wrong. Like there's a lot that goes into being a receiver, but ball tracking ability, I don't know that I can name 10 people better than him with ball tracking. I just don't. Seeing what we've seen on the sidelines and on these deep shots where like he's outstretching his hands and tracking the ball the entire way, it's been impressive.
Well, you called Knox a top 10 tight end, and now you're calling him a top 10 tracker. So I guess we're waiting for him to have a terrible game next week.
Right, he's gonna have
just make Gabriel Davis
gonna drop 3 balls. Yeah, good job, Paul. Good take.
Well, we'll know. You know.
Yeah. In fairness, Gabriel Davis has like 40 or 50 people going down to Tampa next week. So,
well, that's right.
He's gonna have
it might be the Gabriel Davis game.
It might be.
We'll see. Yeah, if they decide to use him.
So let's hit on the locker room and whether there are trust issues. Post-game press conference, all of that kind of stuff. You know, some things came to light, I think, with McDermott. He was angry at the post-game press conference, which we usually don't see. We usually see the composed, I'm not going to say anything on a line, etc. Which we also saw from Poyer and Hyde. And as soon as we make those shirts, they act like jerks. But
Poyer's always been kind of a jerk, but
yeah. Mike, you can come on the show whenever you want, buddy.
Exactly.
So who wants to hit on whether there's
something going on in the locker room?
Something going on in the locker room, a disconnect between coaches. Let's talk about coaching first, because that was hit on by some of the reporters, and McDermott kind of hedged a little bit on his connection with Dable right now. Who wants to take that and talk about whether there's a disconnect between Dable and McDermott and what they want to do?
Has everybody seen the McDermott presser where he talks about the conversation he had with Dable?
Nope.
Apparently they sat down and had a meeting the other day after the Monday night game. And to me, what McDermott is trying to allude to in the presser now is that they're on the same page. Whether or not they were on the same page previous to the Monday night game isn't something he made mention of. He just made mention that they are. To me, that said that we are now on the same page. So if we see a little bit of a wrinkle thrown into the offense, or we see more pass-heavy offense, we'll see how that plays out. I thought it was interesting that then Dable came out and said that they want to be aggressive and they want to be physical, because that's not what this team is right now. Not the offense. They're not. It's an undersized offensive line by NFL standards, with the exception of Spencer, Gargantuan Brown, right? So I don't think that there's a rift. I think that this coaching staff has spent too much time with each other for it to be like, well, after 4 years, I think you just suck at what you do now. Like it's not that. I honest to God, I still believe that they're getting into their own heads. And as these losses compound each other, right? They're thinking that they need to make these wholesale changes. They need to adapt. They need to become more balanced. And that's not, do what you're good at. Not like, don't stop letting other teams dictate who you are and be you.
Yeah.
Like, you were a team that would throw it 45 times against Russell Wilson, thinking, hey, we know we got a young quarterback. We know we probably shouldn't throw the entire thing on him. But you know what, Josh? Go out there and do your thing. And we're going to see where it happens. And last season led him to a $258 million contract. And we have not seen the same type of play calling that caters to his skill set this year. The first 3 seasons Josh was in the league, he was running more. He had more rushing touchdowns. And now season 4, there's been a regression back to the mean as far as his.
You don't think that has anything to do with his contract?
No. I think that they're still trying to fine tune it. I think that they were trying to become a more balanced team, and that is all it was. I think they came into the season with a plan to be the team they were last year. And when they got kicked in the teeth by the Steelers, they're like, nah, scrap that. We need to be more balanced. People have caught on. And I don't think they saw enough of a sample size to make that determination. And I think that they did it prematurely. And now that they're where they are, it's like you either go back to that or you just stay doing what you've been doing for the last 12 weeks.
They came into the season to be the team that they were last season. And I mean, I know I said exactly what you just said word for word, but I mean, I want to emphasize that because that's a problem. And we kind of talked about this in the very beginning, that they need to be better at seeing trends. They need to be better at understanding what's going to happen next in the league, or even saying we will be the ones who dictate what will be next in the league, instead of saying we're going to chase the Chiefs, because chasing the Chiefs has given you losses. And
despite beating the Chiefs, which is great.
Despite beating the Chiefs, right? Yeah. Congratulations,
like, mission accomplished.
Exactly. So, but it has brought you losses in numerous ways. Now, one of the other things, and Noah, I want to let you take this one, because we were talking about this previously about Boogie Basham, okay, and him being an example of the front office in Brandon Beane not showing a complete identity and not going after it or trying to have it both ways. So I want you to take this because you felt pretty strongly on this, and I want you to roll with it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're taking Groot and then taking Basham. You're trying to prepare for right now because you're saying our problem against the Chiefs, right, was we didn't have enough pass rushers. We didn't have enough guys who could get to the quarterback. You know, that was our issue last year. Not enough sacks, blah, blah, blah. So we're going to take 2 rookie defensive ends, and there you go. But then you're also trying to have it for the future because when the draft initially happened, you're sitting there saying, "Oh, Groot's a project. Groot is this, you know." So here we are. We have our person for the future, and then Basham is a guy we can rotate and play. Now, those roles seem to have flipped as Groot is taking. It has a starting role. Should keep having his starting role. Has been fantastic for them, but Basham barely played. Hasn't done much for us this year. Hasn't shown up, and Paul, you made this point. They could have traded up for Landon Dickerson and had a center who also played guard in college and would have had the depth, could have possibly taken one of the spots on the line even where they're struggling, where John Feliciano seems to have taken a step back. Darrell Williams has seemed to taken a step back. Cody Ford, I want to shoot into the sun. Ike Botker is just average. He's not great. He's not good. He just is what he is. He'll make pancakes, but he'll also he'll let in people in. He'll miss his blocks just like everybody else. And you look at where Landon Dickerson is, and he's having a great year as a rookie. And those 2 picks, you're looking at them and you're sitting there going, they want to have it both ways. They want to have the 2 bookends for the future, which they do, because Basham has shown in those moments that he can get stuff done. Yes, he still has to have a different move besides the freaking swim move or the spin, but he'll get there. But you didn't need to take him. If this roster was built to win now, where you're going to get Sanders and you're dropping John Brown and you're saying I'm going to do this, right, and you're trusted and you're saying, okay, we're bringing everybody back on the defense, we're doing this, we're doing the right things, we're doing what we need to get done, and then you go into the draft and you're preparing for the now as well as the future, and you can't have it both ways. If you're saying externally, we want to win. This is our Super Bowl window. Let's get it. Next 2 to 3 years. Let's do it. Let's get it right now. Let's go. But then you're not doing the things that you need to do to get there by not taking the right steps.
I think that I love where you're going with that, because I think that that's exactly what the thought process was to build for now and the future. And I get it completely. Every offseason, you're not going to be able to fill all your holes and create a perfect roster. Otherwise, every year we'd have at least one undefeated team, right? Like, so it's not feasible. You're always going to you're going to have injuries that you didn't expect to have, where you didn't have enough depth, but you thought that those guys are consistent. They never get hurt. And then something happens. So there's so many unaccountable things that you can't account for that play out during a season. But to your point, I believe that this coaching staff and the front office believe that this Super Bowl window is much larger than 2 to 3 years. I don't think they saw this as the Super Bowl or bust season. I don't. I
don't know that they saw it as a Super Bowl or bust season, but they said they came out directly in the preseason and said, our goal is to win the AFC.
Yeah. Yeah. And
that's Super Bowl or bust to me.
I guess when I say Super Bowl or bust, it's like Green Bay this year is Super Bowl or bust, because you're not going to have a top quarterback after this season, or worst case after next season, right? Like, so it's Super Bowl or bust now. You make moves that dictate that. You know that you have a finite window. There's other teams that are same. The window in Tampa Bay isn't a 5-year window. It's just not as much as Tom wants to think that he'll play to 50.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not feasible. So that window is much shorter. I think the Bills do have one of the larger windows in the league right now, currently, despite the despite the painful losses that we've seen this season, I think that from a future years standpoint, the Bills' window is going to be open for quite a while, as long as they don't shoot themselves in the foot and put themselves in a position where it's like, we're not going to have the same roster in 2 years.
I want to interject here because I see why you can say that, but I also want you to think about the ages of some of the players. John Feliciano, 30. Darrell Williams, over 30. Mitch Morse, over 30. Emmanuel Sanders, over 30. No one behind Knox. No one behind Morse. You have Botker and Ford. Botker, who's also 28 and approaching 30 very quickly. And again, is just an average player. Cody Ford is a bust. No depth there. You hit on Spencer Brown. Congratulations. What do you have behind him? Nothing. Deion Dawkins.
We don't know what Tommy
also
Doyle is going to be
approaching
just
30.
yet.
Right,
Young
but
guy.
they don't have it now.
But they don't have it now.
No.
So
Correct. So
I understand what you're saying because they have Josh, they have Singletary, they have Knox, they have young players at right position, but they're going to lose Klein, they're going to lose Hyde, they're going to lose Poyer. Cool, they have DeMar Hamlin behind those guys because I don't trust Jaquan Johnson. And Saran Neal, as much as we love him, he's also getting up there in age too. They're starting to get guys that are gonna get out of that window where they're gonna start to decline, because you can't expect Saran Neal to be an athletic freak when he's 32. You can't expect that. You can't expect Mitch Morse to keep playing at the same level either. As he takes more hits, he takes more this, he takes more that. John Feliciano has already taken a step back. Darrell Williams has already taken a step back. Is that going to remain consistent as they get older?
That's fair.
You're not preparing for the right now. You're trying. I'm going to go back to what I was saying. You drafting the way you just drafted, you're preparing for way down the line. You're trying to have it both ways.
At a position that was getting older. I want to point that out. That's a position that was getting older. I understand what you're saying.
You're preparing to replace Addison and Hughes, okay, by drafting those guys. I mean, that's a clear changing of the guard that they're trying to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're keeping Addison and Hughes, which is fine. You already have Klein there.
Star, Zimmer.
Yeah, I mean,
two
you can
other
keep
older guys.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely can keep going. I mean,
I'll make this point, and I'll let you piggyback off this, Todd, because I think this might help spark an idea. So, remember where the roster was 3 short years ago? Zay Jones was one of our primary targets, right? So, in 3 years, think about how much we've altered this roster to make it AFC Championship caliber as of last season. I understand what's going on this season, okay? So, we have seen that from a draft capital and free agency standpoint, that we can plug holes and improve positions year over year over year. And they do a really good job of setting that up. Like, if we would have looked at the roster back in 2019 and look at it now, there's so much changeover that's happened in the last 3 to 4 years. And that personally gives me the belief that, hey, I see the things coming down the road. But until I just haven't seen enough to convince me that they can't replenish the shelves in an appropriate fashion. You bring up DeMar Hamlin, right? Like, I don't need him to be a starter this season or even next season. Maybe not even until 2023. And that gives them time to mature within the scheme and learn everything. You're not going to get a blue chip player with every draft pick, but you're hoping to get guys that you can work with to turn them into, a Taron Johnson or a Matt Milano. Some of these late round picks that have turned into starter caliber players, you hope that you could find a couple late round people that do something similar. And, offensive line is something that's going to need to be addressed in this offseason. Not only that, you're going to have to plug some holes in the safety position eventually once Poyer and Hyde get a little bit older. Sanders, in my opinion, is going to be replaced by Gabriel Davis as soon as he's gone. I think Gabriel Davis has shown so much now through 2 years, even through his limited chances this year, that I don't know how you don't plug him into wide receiver 2 next season. I don't know how. So I think that they're trying to bring guys into the roster, and they're letting the vets play ahead of them to slowly bring some guys along. Some guys are just hitting the ground running like Greg Rousseau. And then you got Basham, who's probably going to turn into a really solid defensive player for us, but it's just going to take a little bit longer. Dawson Knox took 3 years to turn into, a very talented tight end. So they find these players, and one of two things seem to happen. And there's some outliers, but one of two things seem to happen throughout this entire regime. Either you have somebody that immediately comes in and is a blue chip player like a Trey White or a Matt Milano, or to some extent, even Spencer Brown that came out of nowhere. Like I didn't think he would even see meaningful snaps this season, let alone earn the starting job before we got through the first quarter of the season. So I think that they're going to do a little bit of that, but I don't think that you can fill all of that in 1 year. So it's tough. It's a balancing act. And I'm not going to I don't know enough to possibly sit here and say that they're doing it the wrong way or the right way, but the points you make are very valid. And I hope that they have their eyes on that long term, because the guys that are getting older, we are going to need to replace. And we don't want to be stuck in a situation where we blink our eyes and all of a sudden we have 4 holes on our starting offensive unit or defensive unit. And it's like, well,
you're
now
going
we
to
got
have
to pay a bunch of guys
on both sides of the ball next year.
Yes, absolutely. And some of it's going to have to be plugged in with free agents, and there's not going to be a ton of cap space, even with the cap going up to a rumored $210 million next year.
Yeah.
That's not going, like, you're not going to be able to plug all those holes through free agency. So you're going to have to turn your draft picks. You're going to have to get lucky on a couple late rounder guys, and you're going to have to make the most of what you have and continue to build, but field a competitive team that you feel at least has a chance at winning every game that they're a part of, regardless of whether or not they do. And I haven't reached the point yet where we're going into this Tampa Bay game and I'm not sitting here saying to myself, we've got no chance. As long as you got some of the players that we currently have on this roster, if you got Josh Allen, if you got Matt Milano, you can compete. You just have to find a groove in this next 5-week stretch, or it's a one and done.
You have to find a groove against Tampa. You have to beat Tampa.
Realistically.
Right?
Well, I saw a tweet earlier. I bookmarked it, but I don't want to waste time going through them. Someone brought up that there is a path to get, like, even if we lose against Tampa Bay, this is what needs to happen. If we lose to Tampa Bay, we need to beat the Patriots and then hope the Patriots lose one other game while we go off to beat the Jets, Carolina, and the Falcons. So we need to beat those 3 teams.
Those aren't guarantees. I'm sorry.
No, they're not. After what we've seen, they're not. There's no more guarantees. And like that whole, this is there's no more get right games. That's it. Like that was for the first half of the season. You could have your get right games then. Like you are who you are now. And you either have to come up with some gimmicks that'll get you through and scheme some things up. Like, I don't know why McKenzie wasn't activated despite not wanting him to return kicks, because jet sweeps in that game would have been enormous. Absolutely enormous.
I think they were probably planning to do that with Breida, and then he fumbled his first attempt. Yeah. Right. So
that's fair.
I mean, that would be my thought. I think also, I mean, McDermott did just come out and say, I don't trust him.
The correct context, because I went back and listened, because I saw the tweet saying that. The context of it was that he didn't trust them in the wind for this game. It wasn't.
He said, overall... I don't trust them in these conditions, yes. to be able.
Which is still.
He said, I wanted someone who I can trust.
To trust, yeah.
Which is a pretty strong statement, though.
Yeah.
About what you think about the player. And the player did tweet back, and so he felt that it was a pretty strong statement as well. The thing about I don't know who wants to take it from here. I'm
so Tampa Bay, right? Like we got to touch on Tampa Bay, right? Because I want to
Yeah,
bring.
let's-
I brought
let's
something
look
up to
forward.
CJ the other day. So the two things that we'll look forward to. Okay, Tampa Bay is one thing that we could discuss. Another thing I want to discuss is I am now of the belief that getting into the playoffs and not being a top seed may be a blessing in disguise for the 2021 Buffalo Bills. Do we want another bad weather game in Buffalo, knowing that 2 out of our 5 losses have come in those conditions? I'm not saying that's why. All right. I want to preface that.
Yes, I do.
But honestly, I want better weather. And if it means going to Tennessee in the first round because they end up the 2 seed and the Patriots end up the 1 seed.
There's never windy conditions in Tennessee.
Well, yeah, but the chances of it compared to December and January in Buffalo, I don't think that home field advantage is quite what we. I'll tell you
what. I agree with that in the fact that you don't want to go into a game where it's going to force the other team to go run heavy because obviously that's not our strength. And so to that point, as far as what you're saying, I don't think that those situations benefit us as much as we thought
they have home field.
Yes,
agreed.
But
unless you let Josh just zip the ball, no,
hold on.
You're not
going
to have a quarterback throw that many times against
what
us.
team is not going to go run heavy against the Bills the rest of the season?
The rest of the season, Tampa Bay will. Leonard Fournette is on a tear.
He's going to get 250 yards.
No, he is
Carolina
not.
Won't.
No, he is not. He's not that efficient.
They're not going to run. No, they're not going to run that much. There's
They
no way
can.
that they run.
They could.
If they do, they're
If
like,
they hand off the ball 40 times to Fournette, how many yards?
How many yards do you think he gets? Okay, 150.
Okay, that's fair.
Okay, you know, to which.
But if you hold them to 14
bad,
points because of it
I still
again,
think close to that.
like Josh Allen in better weather conditions where Dable isn't going to call a balanced attack, and he's just going to say, "Josh, win us this game. Throw the ball 40 times." Like you're not going to be able to run the ball against the Buffalo Bills 40 times in a game that has decent weather because Josh Allen will be able to do what Josh Allen does without the added variable of wind or weather and whatnot. You're not gonna. If there was 5-mile-an-hour winds and it was overcast on Monday night, Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots aren't running the ball 46 times. True or false?
No, they're not running 46 times. No, but they're running 30.
They might
more.
run heavy because of what they know the Bills are. So what I'm saying is it's going to affect some things somewhat. So I don't see that being.
If I'm playing the Bills, I'm running the ball until they stop me.
Well,
and I don't mean just one drive. I'm running the ball. I'm running the ball until you say we're not. It's
until
not
you're
working.
able to string multiple drives together where you prevent them from getting no points whatsoever. That would be when I'm the opposing coach. Like if I have 3-4 drives in a row where running the football hasn't worked, then I would change it. But you still have to get to that point. And the Bills have shown that they cannot get to that point where they cannot they went one drive against the Patriots, let them go 3 and out, and then the next they let up a 64-yard touchdown. This defense is so inconsistent.
41% of the Pats' rushing production for the entire night came off 3 out of 46 of their runs.
They won
59%.
They beat the Bills
by running
because they owned the clock, and they didn't even own the clock in the sense of if you look at the clock, you go, "Oh my gosh, this is like Super Bowl 25 where the Giants just didn't let the Bills on the field." It was like 33 minutes that the Patriots had, and the Bills had 27. The Bills ran more plays than the Patriots, but that's because the Patriots held on to the ball or had the one drive that was one scoring, but the Patriots held on to the ball. And
they weren't in a rush, right? So every time Bills were up, we needed to score. We needed to get back in the game. We needed points.
Right.
If one of those early red zone appearances by the Bills,
it's always
get into the end zone. I know it's an if, but what I'm saying is you don't necessarily have to stop the run to stop the run, right? You just need to put the other team down enough where running is no longer an option. And that's where they failed to stop the run because I'm telling you, take out that 64-yard run and the Patriots averaged less than 3.5 yards a carry. I'll take that any day out of a defense, because
3.5
times in a row. and you're
3.5
not
plus
getting a
3.5
first down.
plus 3.5 is
10.5.
Right.
And all it takes is one
Below
they did a good
3.
job of getting off the field, getting them off
Or
the field in the second
1-4.
half. But the problem was you didn't. If you were up, right? If you're up 24-14 in the third quarter, McCorkle Jones is going to start throwing the ball. Like you have to. You're not going to be able to keep running it that way.
McCorkle?
So, it's his name. You didn't know that? Mac Jones' real name is McCorkle. Yes, you're welcome. I swear to God.
He goes by Mac for a reason.
Yeah, clearly.
Mike. His name is Mike McCorkle Jones.
Oh, great to know. Cool.
Why he doesn't go by Mike Jones is
Yeah, for
over
sure.
my head. Like that would be my pick. But let's move on to Tampa Bay.
831
Like
230 800.
what do the Bills need to do in order to beat Tampa Bay?
Stop Tom Brady and stop Leonard Fournette and stop Chris Godwin and stop Rob Gronkowski, right? And stop every weapon that they have. Because right, you're down Trey.
I hate not having Trey against Gronk.
It's brutal, right? Against Gronk or Godwin, right? Or I mean, they have 2 number 1 receivers in Evans as well, right? And obviously Antonio Brown isn't playing, but I mean, they have enough weapons. They have Cameron Brate as well. I mean, they can run 2 tight end set with Fournette, Godwin, and Mike Evans, and go beat us.
I think the talent, the way to say how talented they are is they have a first round tight end that they drafted 3 years ago, and he doesn't even see the field. That's how talented they are.
Well, I think the only way the Bills are going to win this game is if Josh Allen has 400 or more all-purpose yards and 4 touchdowns, regardless of whether they're passing or running. I need that kind of production out of Josh Allen, or the Bills don't stand a chance. Because the only way you're beating Tampa Bay is if you out-duel them. Because you're not going to hold them to 14 points like you did New England. Because Mac Jones is Mac Jones and Tom Brady is Tom Brady. Like you're not going to have that same type of performance. So I expect Tampa Bay to put up at least 24 or 31 points. So to my end, like you need 4 touchdowns and 400 yards out of Josh Allen to win this game. Now you have to call the plays to allow him to do that. You can't run the ball 24 times. Like don't stop. Just stop. It's not working. Stop beating a dead horse. It's not magically going to work a month before the playoffs. Like it's time to just adjust and like you have to. And I don't know what else they're going to do. They just have to sling the ball around and hope that Josh Allen catches fire at the right time and then just ride that in the playoffs. That's the only chance they have to make a run.
I think that this game also, like KC, will be huge for the D-line. And if the D-line can get to Brady or make him uncomfortable, move him around, we've known that that's his kryptonite for years.
And we don't need sacks.
It'll be a great
pressured.
Right. No, I know, but it'll be a great litmus test for how good our defensive line really is after all the capital we've put into it. Right. So I think that this will be a huge game for them. And if they can get some pressure and they get there, I think that we're a lot more successful. And if they don't, then we're going to get blown out, unfortunately, and it's not going to be close. So I think,
but even if they get pressure against Brady, can't the Bucs just hand it off and run up the middle?
Technically, but is that a Brady game plan though? Is that something Brady's going to want to do?
Again,
I think
most
Brady's
going to
want to win the game.
I agree.
Brady,
yeah.
Brady
against
is
the Bills.
Brady's just going to want to win the game. I
That's
think
what he
Brady
does.
would be
I
fine.
think he has a
throwing
little
three
bit
passes if he
more.
won the game.
I think he has a little bit more pride than that, personally.
But here's the thing: even
maybe
if they start off with a power running game, because Bill's weakness, we know what we're gonna do: hand off the ball, and then let's say opening drive, Tampa Bay runs the ball down our throat and scores a touchdown. Well, oh crap! Josh Allen marches down the field, 7-7 passing, 67 yards and a touchdown. All of a sudden, I'm starting to second guess now whether or not I'm gonna stay run heavy. Second drive for Tampa Bay rolls around. You continue being run heavy. The defense makes a stop, and all of a sudden the Bills get the ball back, go down and score a touchdown. Now it's 14-7, and Josh is cooking early in the first quarter.
You're not running,
You're not running anymore. So that again, to my point, Josh needs to cook. they have any shot at this game. If you want to dictate Tampa Bay's game plan, you go out and you put 14 up in the first quarter. That's simple.
Can you put it up running? Can't you?
See, I was going to
unless
make
Josh
that
is
point
part
too.
of that.
I was
Unless
thinking
Josh is a
the key
big
to
part
a
of
win
that.
is some rushing touchdowns. I think that.
Which is why I said 4.
Right.
need
No, I
one of
still
those to
think
be a
Josh
rushing
does
You
what he
touchdown.
can't
does.
let Josh hang in the pocket. You need
Yeah.
this kind of needs to be the time where
2 read, go. 1, 2,
They-
not there, take off.
they
Roll
right.
right.
They either trust Josh
Roll
to
right.
roll out and they can say you can run. We don't care. Just don't fumble, but you can run. And they say that to Josh, or they trust Singletary or Breida to make it outside. I mean, Singletary has shown, yes, his step isn't as fast as Singletary, and he's Breida. I mean, Singletary isn't as fast as Breida, and he doesn't have as hard as a step as some of the backs, but he does have a step. He does have the ability to be able to get himself up the field. Yeah, he's not going to go 15, 20 yards, but he'll go 8. He'll go 10. And that's better than just running it directly straight ahead for 3 yards.
Yeah.
They have to have trust in these guys to get it done. And I think that's also a part of it. We're talking about Dable and McDermott. I think across the board, there's a lack of confidence and there's a lack of trust that these people can execute and that this is the group to get it done. I really hope that conversation between McDermott and Dable put some head things on straight, because that is definitely a focal where it's either McDermott saying, why are you not trusting Josh to throw it? Why are you not trusting Breida to get outside? Why are we not using him more when we said we would and we're not? And Dable's going, well, I don't trust them to execute it. We haven't been executing it. Then that needs to change. And I hope that that's what the conversation was, because either one of those two guys is trusting these players to execute. And at a certain point, especially when you're 13 weeks into the season, this is your roster. You can't sit back and say, well, I'm going to just call simple plays because I don't trust these guys to execute anything. You have to still try it. You just have to just try at this point. I don't know.
Agreed. I want to give you a this or that type of scenario, Noah, because what you just said triggered something in my mind that I hadn't previously considered. I'm not exactly sure what it was that triggered it, but your rant there triggered something. Do we think that so I want you to choose whether or not you think it's scenario A or scenario B that's true. Scenario A.
Let's run with it, because
I'm gonna go fast.
Wrap.
Yep. Scenario A is McDermott realized after week 1 that we need more balance and instructed Dable, we need to be a more balanced attack heading into this season. Or do we think that it was Dable's doing, and now we have McDermott saying, no. Clearly this isn't working. We need to go back to what was working last season, and that's what we need to do. So
I think it's scenario B, because I think this is Frazier all over again. I think this is McDermott saying this is Dable's offense. He could go and run it. And then now McDermott's going, okay, I have to step in as head coach and be head coach and say, this is how I want my team to run. This is what you're going to do because you are the offensive coordinator and I am the head coach, and you are going to listen to me, because I will bet you $100 that is what he said to Frazier, that he goes, you are not a head coach anymore. You are not the boss of anybody. I am the boss. This is my team. This is how things are going to be.
This is how I want it to go.
And
it worked. In your example of Frazier, that changed everything for him. And look at what the defense is this season compared to last season. So
he's maybe an assistant head coach. I mean, you don't give that to somebody you don't trust, and you don't give that to somebody who has no respect for you either, or has very little respect and doesn't listen to you. You don't say,
it'll be interesting.
I want him on my staff. I really think that this was scenario B, and McDermott was saying, this is my team. You're not doing things correctly. This is what we're doing, because it's
the running game isn't working. Knock it off. Like, just whatever. Go with what works. Yeah, or whatever the conversation was, but he dictated things rather than I was wrong. Do your thing. That it's I wasn't thinking that until you said it, but I think it's scenario B too.
Yeah.
And you bringing up the Frazier thing was an excellent point, because we've seen that play out. So there's we could say that we've seen that, and it's possible that that's happening again, just with the other side of the ball. Now, the question is, will we see similar results? Because those results were almost immediate with Frazier. And that's what we need. Otherwise, we're not going to stand a chance against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We need that to light a fire under Dable or in the future. Yeah. Um,
All right.
this weekend's gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
Score
Last-
predictions?
33-32 Tampa.
Ooh. Ah, that'll hurt me so bad. Why do you say that? But I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I'm going 37-31.
Who?
Bills.
Okay.
I'm not quite ready to say it's going to be a 10-point victory or else I'm going to drink hot sauce, but 37-31. Although that worked last time. Maybe I should. You know what? I'll take one for the team. The Buffalo Bills will beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers by 10-plus points. No, 37-31. I'm not that confident.
No, a prediction.
35-30 Tampa.
CJ.
28-24. Buffalo.
Cool. So we got a 2-2 split. I can dig it. And all close games. We all have it within a score of each other. So that's
I am kind of in the mind state of positive thinking. So
I'm trying
Yeah,
to push
you
it
really
out.
are.
I'm glad
like-
somebody is.
it might not be like how my gut feels, but this is what I want my brain to
Yeah,
feel.
that's
So it's
true.
like this is
Yeah.
what we will go with.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that spirit because I know I definitely need that, and you have made a lot of great points during this episode. So, I'm
You put the
much
game
more
day and
cheery
game day
heading
seed.
out than I am coming in. So,
Oh, you're walking. You're stepping off the ledge a little bit.
I think that the correct term is you've added a little bit of jolliness
There you go.
to good old
Yeah.
St. Todd.
Yeah. There we go. There we go.
something
There
like
it
that.
is.
I'm not walking off
Something
the
like that.
ledge though. I'm still on the ledge.
Oh, all right.
Well, hopefully
he's
come
not
Monday
teetering as
we'll have you
much,
off
how
the
about
edge.
We
Okay.
haven't
not leaning.
talked about the stuff that truly bothers me, and I didn't want to go there because I would have just taken up the whole show. So
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Depending on how Sunday goes,
that's
maybe next
fine.
week is
About
when you get
those
to talk
things.
about that.
Yeah.
We're either going to be like, yeah, McDermott got to Dable, or it's going
All
to be
right,
like,
we don't
all
have to
right,
talk about
Todd,
anything. All right,
we're
we're
just going
good.
to sit back and let you go.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Good show as always. If you came and you stayed with us, folks, we appreciate it. Have a good day.
Oh,
Have a
that's
good
always.
week, and wrap us up, Noah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
remember to like, comment, subscribe, or dislike, whatever. Just interact with the video. As always, stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy. Look for go buy our merch on Zazzle.com. Follow us on Twitter at Gameday716 because sometimes we're funny. And yeah, that's it.
Stay sunny, Buffalo.
Catch you next week.
Stay
Go
sunny.
Bills.